We are live, 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 live. If you can hear us, please tell us in the comments. We would like to know that we are live so that we don't just talk to ourselves.
Yes.
Say, I can hear you. I want to say that in the comment section. Let me check my audio. Can you hear us? Let me know in the comments. You can hear me. Good. You can hear me. You can see me.
I always find these so interesting because it's like I
Yes.
can read the comments and then I'm like, I'm speaking, but I'm like, I want to read the comments.
Okay, can you see one comment here now on the screen?
Yes, I can.
There's another one. I can hear you. Good. Okay, you can hear me, you can see me. Warm welcome, everyone. But before we start, we want to invite some more people. So just give us 2 minutes to send out invites. We want when people are hopping in, they will see us in action. So let me forward some out. If you have people to invite, please bring them along. It's going to be an interesting discussion. I'm excited. That's why I don't want to come alone. I would like to bring more people, as many as I can.
I love that.
Okay. There are so many messages. Okay. I can see, can hear and see you. Thank you. The next thing, please tell us where you are joining us from.
Yes. I'll start. I'm joining from Bloberg.
Okay. Now we are ready. Today, we have a very important guest in the person of Shani. To me, she is Shani. To you all, she's Shantal. Until you get closer before she becomes Shani to you. We are discussing this fantastic book, A Season for Healing. You can see the picture on the screen. She has it in the e-book format and the hard copy format like this one. And the link for getting yours is in the description of this video. I would like Shani to introduce herself to us, who she is, what she does, and why we are here. Shani, over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Shanni or Shantal. Hopefully by the end of this it will be Shanni to everybody. I am a Christian, firstly and foremostly, just for everybody out there. And I'm also a registered wellness counselor. That's what I do for work. And what that means is I'm registered with a board in South Africa called the ASCHP, and I can also bring faith into my counseling sessions. So it's a kind of a holistic approach to counseling. I enjoy it. I love it. I love seeing people find healing and wholeness. Obviously, the book is linked to that. Actually, yeah, it's all linked. I feel like my whole life is linked into the message I want to bring to people, which is healing and wholeness through Jesus, through his remarkable um, blood, his life, just who he is. I want to always be an example of that light to him, to others, to people around me. Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess that's the board, and you'll get to know a little bit more about me as we continue to talk.
Okay. I will tell you people a little story. I read this book and it stirred something inside of me. I didn't believe I needed healing. Just like most of you may feel, no, it's not for me. I don't need healing. I didn't believe I needed healing. But by the time I went through this book, the Holy Spirit pointed out that, in fact, I needed more healing than even Shani. This book is for you if you've gone through any form of abuse, verbal, psychological, physical, emotional. Do I go on? The list is very long. And when we go through some of them, we may feel, oh, I'm okay. But down the line, your actions point out that there's something that is yet to be addressed. But you wouldn't know. But reactions to different things. Let me give you one example. If you've been physically abused, maybe when you were very young, as a mother, the way you protect your children like a hawk would tell someone on the side that there's something you're trying to safeguard them from. The children won't understand why you were that aggressive. You yourself may not consciously know the reason you're doing what you're doing, but something has been lingering that leads and dictates your reactions to things that are happening around you right now. So, every one of us needs healing, bottom line. You may need healing from verbal abuse. They used to scream at you, call you all sorts of names. I want you to have an open mind as you listen to Shani, because I'm going to ask her questions and she's going to answer us. And I would like you to leave questions for her. It may not make complete sense right now, but by the time we are halfway, you will get what I mean. Are you ready? Let me know in the comments. We are about to start our questions and answers. The first question, Shani, what inspired you to write a season for healing? And how did your
Well,
personal journey influence this book?
um, so the thing that inspired me to write a season for healing was my own experience of sexual abuse growing when I was little. So I had been sexually abused when I was very young, and I grew up thinking that there were certain things that were normal behaviors. So without giving the whole book away, just some of it was I actually thought certain parts of my personality were normal when it is actually just fear based response or trauma responses. And a season for healing came out of me actually learning how to deal with my own trauma, with me learning how to um, overcome certain things that God had given me insight, help, and also then mental health professionals who'd also helped me through the journey process of healing. And I wanted to share what I had learned with other people because I am a counselor, and I wanted to help people that had been through something similar to me and to help people see that there is light at the end of this dark tunnel of trauma, that there is healing, that you can become whole even though something so traumatic had happened. You could find hope in who God is. And yeah, that's what inspired me to actually write the book. Is I thought if I write it for just one person and one person finds healing through it, then it's a book that was worth writing.
Fantastic. So, how does healing God's way differ from other approaches to recovering from abuse?
So for me, healing God's way, um, look, it's such a multifaceted question, right? It's so huge. It's not just this one thing that God did and then I was healed and everything was fine. But I realized that, and I say it a lot in my book, is healing is a journey. It's not a race. I think sometimes we want to get to the end of something and be finished with it. And unfortunately, healing isn't like that. People say you don't forget, and you don't, but you can move forward in a different way. And with God, He helped me to move forward in a way where I didn't hold on to things long term. I definitely carried a lot of baggage for many years. And as I was healing, God was showing me what I needed to let go of and how I needed to work through certain things. I definitely am not so intelligent that I could figure that stuff out on my own. I'm also definitely didn't have the strength to do it on my own. And so healing God's way, it actually just invited God into that journey with me and allowing Him to be my strength and not just my companion and my dad on this journey, but to also be my healer, like the person that went into those dark places that I thought no one could love and no one would want to be a part of. Um, but yes, it really, really, really spoke to me when God started healing me. He spoke to me in ways that I could only imagine and brought healing in ways I never thought possible. If that makes sense.
It does. To me, it does because I've seen healing from both sides of that coin, and nothing makes you whole like walking with God. In your
Yeah.
book, you emphasize faith as a
Yes.
tool for healing, a tool for moving ahead. How can someone who feels distant from God begin to reconnect?
Look, I will say that any sort of trauma or any sort of hurt creates a barrier, right? And the enemy is very real and he's very tricky. And so, what he tries to do is he tries to make us think that the divide between us and God is so big, we can never close that gap. And when the reality is, God is there, he's just waiting for us to open up a little bit to him. It only takes that crack to kind of allow him into that little piece of you for it to start feeling less awkward or less shameful or less guilt ridden, that you can see that God is actually for you. God is like, He wants the best for you. So for me, I think it's when you start to give a little bit of yourself to God, or when you know you've been searching and you want to allow Him into those spaces. It's doing it uncomfortable at first. It's also doing it a little bit afraid. And it's also doing it in a way where maybe it's trial and error. Maybe you're like, you feel great one day when you're speaking to him, and the next day you're like, oh, I don't really know. But it's to keep taking those little steps and allowing him in, even when it's hard and it feels a little bit risky.
Wow. Okay. What is one breakthrough, if you may share with us, from your own healing journey that you think others can learn from?
For me specifically, it was when I was able to share my story. I realized that there's so many people that struggle with different types of trauma, different types of hurt. And when we all keep quiet and we all think that things are unique to us, it actually does more harm than good. But when we start sharing our stories when we're ready to, when we feel like we've healed enough, when we feel like we've grown enough in our healing journey to share some of that story, it is actually very freeing to be able to relate to other people, to realize my story might not be the same as your story, but there are things that are similar and I'm not alone. You know, everybody is unique, everybody's story is unique. So I'm not trying to say everybody's story is the same and therefore we can understand. But when we start having common ground and when we start understanding that we're not alone, it breaks that stigma of like I am the only one and no one can ever relate to me ever. And then it also going back to just faith, it then takes away whatever hold the enemy tries to have on us by keeping us, you know, feeling downtrodden and feeling like we're alone and that we don't have anybody alongside us. So yeah, I think that would be the one thing that really helped with my healing.
Wow. I remember when I told my family that anything you throw light on, the devil can no longer use it as a weapon to
Yeah,
frighten or keep you, yes, keep you down. And that was out of experience because I know that when something happens to me and I keep quiet, trying to figure it out, I may not be able to. But when I say it out and someone else will say, no, I had that kind of experience the other day and this is what I did. Another person will say, oh, it's a small thing. In my own mind, it's already so big that the shame and guilt and the weight would make me not lift my head up. But by sharing it, you find out that there are so many people that have gone through that same journey, so many people that have come out strong on the other side, and that have tips and tricks and hacks. I am the queen of shortcuts. So anything that will give me a shortcut through life, bring it on. Suggest it. I will take it on. So I learned from that experience that anytime I'm going through stuff, the first thing I do is to share it. Because as soon as you share it, the enemy can no longer use it as a weapon. I hope we are learning. Please, can we ask questions in the comments? Or just say, you've got an aha moment. That's good enough for me. This conversation is deep. We are making light of it so that it doesn't scare people away. But
yeah,
if you have ever been brought up the way I was brought up, then you have series of abuses, not just one abuse, series, because there are so many voices speaking negativity into your life. When you make a mistake, the barrage of words that will come out, they are enough to scar you for life. We all need healing. So please, please, please engage with us. There's no shame in this. Let's journey together. Abuse, no matter the type, psychologically, emotionally, physically, verbally, can leave all of us feeling broken and unworthy.
yeah.
Shani, what message does your book have for someone who feels worthless?
Well, I hope, because this was my intention when I wrote the book, was to bring hope to people who feel hopeless and also to give people, and I say people, and not just women, men and women, because abuse doesn't just happen to females, right? Men can experience abuse as well. And I think what I wanted was to inspire hope through my book that if I can overcome something, that whatever I have overcome, whatever I've learned by overcoming my own trauma my own the impact of the abuse that had like many fruits. So like the abuse was like the root, the tree, and then from that were like unhealthy fruits. So like I say in my book, I was bulimic at one point. I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't have a lot of self confidence. All of these things that I thought, oh, it comes from me, but it actually stemmed from something that happened to me. I'm not blaming that on everything, but it had a big part to play in it. And I wanted people to find hope in their situation. Maybe they didn't go through the kind of abuse I went through. Maybe they went through something different. But if they had some of the things that I was dealing with and they could find things that helped me and benefited me to be beneficial to them, I wanted that to bring hope to them so that they could change what they were experiencing.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is a comment here. I believe we should not allow the negative things said to us to be what shows us or maybe describes us. We should
hmm
prove the negative people wrong. What do you think, Shani?
I think that if we're going to do things to prove other people wrong and want to prove something right, the only person we should want to live for, in essence, is God. And so when we're trying to prove other people wrong, I'm not saying this in a negative way, I mean it in a positive way, is we're making them the focal point, right? So we're making them the reason that we're doing something, or the reason that we're not doing something, or the reason that we're excelling at something. And I feel like that gives them power in our lives that they don't actually deserve, right? So when we start focusing on what they've said and trying to switch that to a different narrative, we're actually allowing them a say in our life that they don't actually need to have or don't actually deserve to have. But when we go, hey, this person said this negative thing about me, and I don't want it to impact me, for myself, I'm going to make these changes. For myself, I'm going to say these things or do these things. Then we're taking the onus away from them validating us and making us feel special and approving of us. And we're going, hey, my value doesn't lie in how you see me. So whether you see me in a positive or negative way, and it sounds easier said than done, but we do allow other people's words to impact us. I'm not going to say we don't, but we can choose what we're going to do with that, right? And we can choose to go, hey, I'm going to listen to you, and then I'm going to try and let you see that this is not who I am. Or we can go, okay, that's how you perceive me, but I am broken and I am hurt and I am not coping well. And I don't think that this is going to help me grow. Adding this to my plate or adding this to me is not going to help me become a better person. It's actually just going to keep me living the way you think I should be living.
Makes sense. Okay. Your explanation made sense to someone.
Thanks.
Okay. There's something, there's a story I heard. I don't know if it's a story or just something that says that when a cow, a bull, eats grass, it chews the hay or the grass, spits out the sticks, and takes in the one it wants. So
Yeah.
maybe we can apply that in our lives. In every area of our life, when negativity comes, they are all abuse. When they come, we take it in, throw out the things that we don't like about some of it, and retain the ones that are useful. Maybe when somebody criticizes our work, maybe somebody criticizes the way we dress, maybe somebody criticizes the hair we carry, because all of them come. One thing we can do is either accept it or we fling it off.
Yeah.
Sometimes criticisms may have one truth out of 20, and then the 19, we know what to do with the rest. What do you say, Shadi?
I think it's good. I think it's great. It's a great analogy as well. Like it's something we can use. Everyone can use in life, right? Take the good, leave the bad. You know, um, it's a great example of also not allowing things to settle that shouldn't. But I will add, sometimes we can listen and read things like this and think, oh, I need to be there already. And like I said at the beginning, healing is a journey. So if you feel like, hey, I'm not there yet where I can just take the good and leave the bad, it's also it's a process, it's a practice. It's be gracious to yourself when you're doing it. Don't feel like you have to be where we're at right now speaking about this stuff because we had to journey differently and learn things along the way. So if you don't feel like you're here yet and you have it, don't feel like you're failing. I don't want you to feel like you are not reaching this level because there's no levels. All you're doing is you're running your race, you're on your own journey, and you have to take it a step at a time and do it your own way and what's going to work for you. We're just giving you some things that have helped us, and this is just some of that. And I just don't want anybody to feel condemned because they're not there yet.
Cool. What practical steps, at least give us two,
Mm-hmm.
for people that are watching and listening to us, how they can start their journey of healing after an abuse? In fact, life is abusive. So give us two practical steps we can apply when things don't go the way we planned it.
Okay. So the first one is if you're still in an abusive situation, is to seek professional help if you can. If you're under the age of 18, find a trusted adult or somebody in a position of authority that you trust that can help you. And if you're married or you're single and you're in a situation, you're over 18 and you feel stuck, I would say this is the second one would be find someone that you feel you can trust to speak to. Maybe it is a counselor, maybe it is a, you know, I think sometimes friends are great. Not sometimes. Friends are great all the time. But sometimes what happens is we need people that have maybe either a little bit more experience in this area. So if you have friends that have some sort of background or knowledge or experience that can help you, definitely speak to them. Or find professionals that can help you. Because I think what happens is sometimes we look to the people around us, and if you are in an abusive situation, I'm not speaking this over anybody, but 9 times out of 10, what happens is people that are vulnerable because of previous abuse will continue to be vulnerable. So the people they have around them aren't always going to be people that they can trust. So that's why I'm saying, like, look to people you can trust or people that you think would be beneficial in terms of like their knowledge or their experience or expertise to help you, give you information, maybe help you try and get out of the situation, or maybe try and start a journey of healing. I know that it sounds like two of the same things, but the one is for people that are under 18 who, maybe home isn't a safe place or they've experienced something traumatic, to find a trusted person that they can find. And then the other one, because adults, it's always like, oh, why don't they just leave? Why don't they just get out of that? Why don't they just get help? It's a step of that like courage, it's a step of bravery, but it's also a step of believing that someone is going to believe what you're saying. So it's trying to find the right people that are going to help you on that journey. So you don't, once you take that step, you have proper support around you. You're not clutching around to kind of find something, but you actually have people that know a little bit more than you, maybe a little bit further on the journey. So you're not, you know, it's not the blind leading the blind, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. If you're joining us right now, we're talking about a season for healing. What I like about this book is that it starts with the verse in Ecclesiastes that says, there is time for everything. There are times that you don't choose, there are times that choose you. The times may be pleasant, they may not be pleasant. But for every unpleasant time that you have experienced, there is another time for healing. And that's where this book comes in. And this is our dear Shanni. This book can be bought as a hard copy or a soft copy on Amazon Kindle. The links are in the description of this video. Whether you're watching from Facebook or YouTube, this book is available for you on Take a Lot. Yes, if you want the hard copy of this book. And as Shani is a counselor, one of the practical steps you can take for someone you know or for yourself is to ask for help, professional help. I may have some answers, but I won't have all the answers. But Shani is a professional help when you're going through this kind of season of healing. And with this book, she can guide you professionally to that perfect healing God's way. There's healing, but there's healing. You can be healed, but you may not be made whole. And we want that wholeness at the end of the journey. Remember that Shani is available for you to speak with, ask questions, and when you need to find out more, you can ask me and I'll give you her phone number. I'm not going to publish it in public. I'm not going to drop it here. I don't want you to have her number except you really need her number. So if you need help, ask me for her phone number and I'll give it to you. But this book is available. If you don't want to reach out to Shani yet, go through this book. When she has earned your trust to see her in person, then you can take it from there. All right. Do you have any questions for us in the comments? This is a sensitive topic. People are not opening up. Remember, the more you shine light on any situation, the more. Okay? Okay, somebody said something. The more you release the hold that thing has on you. Can you drop the link for the book, please? Okay, it's already in the description, but let me drop it right here, right now. On Amazon, you have the hard copy. Amazon will tell you how long it will take to ship it to you, but the Kindle version is available for you to start reading immediately. You choose whichever format you want, and you will enjoy what I've been enjoying for some time. I'll show you what I did with this book. It's marked with pen. Okay, here's the link for Amazon. It's in the comments. I'll give you the one for Take a Lot as well. At the end of this live video, I'll send the link to her website so you can find out more about her. If you're still sitting on the fence, that's okay. It's in the description. Oh, okay, yeah, it is. But now I've posted the link. Tap this link and it will take you to Amazon. Side by side, you'll see the hard copy and you'll see the soft copy. This is the Take a Lot link. It will take you straight to Take a Lot. That is if you live in South Africa. But if you live in other parts of the world, the Amazon link will serve you better. We are talking about healing. Healing and a season for healing. I believe every day is a season for healing because there's so much happening in today's world that we need God's intervention in our lives. Shani, what role do forgiveness and self-compassion play in the healing process? And how do you approach them in the book?
Wow. Okay, I feel like that's a loaded question, right? Because that's like towards the end of the book. So in the book, I like set you up with different things before you get to the forgiveness part. And I think before I start with forgiveness, let me look at self compassion. I think, one of the greatest things about humanity is our ability to care and our ability to feel. But one of the worst things about us as humans is our ability to have grace for ourselves, right? And so in the book, I take you on a little journey, and the journey is about unpacking how what happened to you wasn't something that you had any say in. And if you know anything about abuse, I'm just going to say this: it's any form of abuse. It's not something that you are going, hey, this is what I would like to happen to me. It's when somebody else makes a decision and you are the victim of that. And so we don't always see abuse as that when we are going through it or when we have been through it, because we will always look at things and go, I could have done, I should have done, why didn't I? And so my hope in the book is to take you on a journey where you discover you're human and you're not to blame. You're not at fault. The things that have happened to you are not things that were in your control. And also to learn that who you are, it's it's okay to be you, and it's okay even in your brokenness to accept who you are as a person, and to learn to love yourself again. If you don't love yourself, let's start with liking yourself or understanding yourself. And that's where I think self compassion comes in, where you learn what happened to you. Like the first thing I would ask people is, do you know what abuse is? And 9 times out of 10, let's say 8 times out of 10, people grapple with that because they don't always think what they've been through is abuse, because they look at people around them and they go, oh, they had it worse than me. So, in order for you to not look at other people and go, they had it worse than me, but to understand what you've been through is bad and what you experienced is bad, and then to have compassion for your experience, that's important. Because out of that, once you have compassion for yourself, you can learn to forgive yourself. It sounds like a weird thing because I'm saying to you it's not your fault, but you do have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive yourself of the things you held onto. You have to forgive yourself of actually maybe not liking yourself because of what you've been through. And then, allowing God into that space with you. It's only once you've learned to understand who you are and have a little bit of empathy for yourself that you can learn to forgive someone else. And it's because for me, and through the book, I hope I take you on this journey where it's understanding that forgiveness isn't just about us, it's also about what God did for us, but it's also about what He did for humanity. And sometimes the forgiveness part of it is the hardest, and it takes, again, many steps. It takes many days, maybe even months of back and forth. Like maybe you forgive the person and then you realize, hey, I'm still hurting on this thing or I'm holding on to that thing. It doesn't mean that you're failing at life. It just means forgiveness is hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But also, forgiveness always, and I think this is a common saying, but it's so true. It was true for me. Like for me, forgiveness was like me drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. When I learned what forgiveness was for myself and then learned forgiveness for someone else, it actually released me from a lot of things I'd been holding on to. And I actually became a lighter person. But it is a journey to get to forgiveness and to get to forgive yourself. It means you have to work through, hey, this really happened to me. I'm not to blame. You then have to put blame where it belongs, but then it's like you can keep that blame there and hold that person in that prison forever, or you can go, this is what they did, and I'm saying this as somebody that's walked my own journey. So this is my own experience. I'm not saying you need to like feel like this, but I had to get to the point where I was like, I forgive this person, and I knew I forgave them because I could actually stand being in a room with them. I could actually, it wasn't a long conversation and it wasn't a deep conversation, but I could actually have a conversation with them without actually having fear, without feeling anger, without feeling hurt. And and then I knew once that happened, I actually had more power than I thought I did before with the unforgiveness. Because the funny thing, and I don't think I've ever told anybody this, or if I have, it's just snippets of this, but what actually happened was the look on his face, because I had not spoken to him in years, like on purpose, alone, by myself, ever spoken to this person. And when I did speak to him, it was like he looked surprised that I would speak to him, firstly. And secondly, I didn't, he didn't have any power over me anymore. And that's when I realized I was truly free, because even though I'd forgiven him, I realized he no longer had any say in my life. He had nothing over me anymore. So yeah.
Woo! We are making progress. I hope you see. Yeah, it starts with acknowledging that there is a need. And from that first step, the next step is who can help me? And
Yeah.
then from there, how can I be helped? We are here to show you how you can be helped. We all need healing. Me too. Let me show you this book. I don't know if you will see the marks, but from page 2, I started writing, underlining, and I couldn't stop. It's so good because I found for the first time, I found out for myself that I needed healing. I didn't know I did. And most of us may not feel like we do. That's why I'm doing this. I want us to know that there's something inside. Let me not say there is. There may be something inside that needs to be addressed in one area of our lives before we can move forward. And sometimes when we look, search, we may not find it. But with this book, the Holy Spirit will do his work.
Yeah.
It does not take him 3 pages to start convicting you on areas that have been left unaddressed that you need to do something about. Someone says, that is awesome. Thank you for your comments. How is Shani helping you with God's help and with her professional knowledge and skill to pull you out of that spot where you are stuck? Because when there's an abuse, you get stuck. In fact, time moves on, but you're still right here without knowing it. Things trigger responses that show, and you may not say it, but a counselor, a professional will spot it immediately. And that's where she comes in. Were there any moments, Shani, when you questioned your faith during your healing journey? And how did you navigate these doubts?
Wow. You're asking all the great questions. Um, Look, I think if anybody says they never had a moment of doubt, it's it's hard to believe. I'm going to say something a little bit controversial, and I don't know if people are going to find themselves in this, but it is hard. Like, I always believe God is a big God, right? And so one of the things I learned, which actually really helped me, was the thing called lamenting. And people that know me know I speak about lamenting often. It's my go to when I have doubts, when I have questions, when I feel weak, when I feel mad at God. You know, I know that we as Christians go, shouldn't be mad at God, but sometimes I'm human all the time, guys, actually. And so sometimes I just have those moments where I'm just like, I'm so mad. I don't know what to do with this anger. And the reality is, God knows what I feel. So it's like Him knowing what I feel and then me going, no, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. I'm good. Everything's perfect. But actually, on the inside, I'm stewing. And so I learned a long time ago that the best thing I can do is be honest with Him. So when I have doubts, when I feel lost, when I feel at my lowest, when I feel like maybe he's forsaken me, maybe he's not walking with me, maybe I am abandoned, for the lack of a better word, I will do something that's very challenging. Is I go to him and then I'll tell him, because the reality is, if you had to go to your parents and be like, "I'm very upset with you right now. You hurt my feelings. You let me down." As a human parent, they will respond with love, yes, sometimes, but they'll also respond out of like anger and hurt that you're feeling that way, or that they made you feel that way, or whatever it is. But with God, He does speak to us, right? But He also listens to us. So when I go to Him and I'm just open and honest, I always come out of that feeling better, because with lamenting, you start off with, and David did this a lot in the Psalms, like, woe is me, why are you so downcast? Why have you forsaken me, my God? Like, all of those, like, really, like, in the trenches kind of starting. And sometimes I'll be, God, like, I'm so mad right now. I'm so angry. I'm so hurt. I can't believe this happened. I cannot believe you let this happen. I cannot believe, you X, Y, and Z. And then I start going, okay, once I start releasing that hurt and that pain, then I start remembering who I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to God, and He knows me, and He loves me, and He's been faithful, and He's done all these other good things. And I start remembering the good things. And so then it starts building up my faith again. But one of the things, and I know this is going to be very controversial, but one of the things God really spoke to me about during this time was, like people always go, how can a good God let bad things happen? And I really felt like God challenged me with free will, and people have free will. And, you know, the best and the worst thing about humans is we have free will. And in our free will, we can also choose to hurt people. And then comes the question of why didn't God and all of these other things. And I'm not going to get into that. But the thing that really struck me was, with free will, people have the choice. They can hear God's voice and they can choose to obey, and they can choose not to obey. Or they don't know God and then they do things that they shouldn't do. And that started shifting how I started interacting with God, because I stopped holding Him responsible for the fallenness of this world and the brokenness of this world. And I started to realize, like, we are a broken human race. And so with that comes hurt and pain. And so He will comfort me, and He will heal me, and He will speak to me. And it's not a perfect thing, but He is a perfect God. And for me, that's helped me in those times where I feel lost and broken and I don't know where to go. I still go to the one person that I'm also mad at sometimes. Like, why did this happen? How did this happen? But I go to Him because He does give me peace. He does hear me. He does heal me. And He does listen. And then he does speak back to me. So, yeah,
In your
that's.
book, you said something about that particular statement, that nobody wins in this argument.
No, it's, yeah,
Yeah, it's true. That's what you wrote in the book.
yeah,
When people ask, where were you? Why could
yeah.
this happen? That nobody wins in this argument with God.
No, and the reality is, we can keep focusing on that, or we can focus on what is actually going to move us to a better place. And we can choose how we want to see things. And you might call me naive for saying that, or you might say, oh, those are rose tinted glasses. But it's actually not, because it wasn't easy. It was hurtful. I had to dig deep. I had to get rid of ugly things. And at the end, He helped me through it all in a beautiful way. But I could never imagine my life without Him. So, yeah.
Cool. There was a preacher I heard once that said, when he asked God during a dark time in his life, God, where were you when this happened to my family? Where were you? Why couldn't you save them? He didn't hear anything for some days, till one day God now said, I was Where I was when Christ was nailed on the cross, I was
Wow.
at the same spot.
Wow.
Since I heard that statement, I no longer ask, where were you? How could it happen to me? Mm-mm. Because God said, I was where I was, just like when Christ was nailed to the cross. So God is still in the same spot. He hasn't moved 1 inch, He hasn't moved one bit. He's still faithful, regardless of the circumstances we find in our broken world.
And unfortunately, not everybody has the ears to hear him, nor does everybody want to hear him when he tries to stop them. So it's like catch 22, right? Like he might be speaking to people, but do they listen is the other thing. You know, that free will is such a tainting thing. So yeah.
True. Can you share a favorite passage or key insight from your book? A passage from the Bible or one key insight from your book that you believe will resonate with anyone that is listening or watching us right now, or somebody that will watch on replay?
Okay. So I had a little think about this, and it was very hard for me to actually just pinpoint one thing. But I guess the one thing for me as a whole for the book is Ecclesiastes 3, because I think we always want to look at what the good comes out of stuff. We forget that sometimes, even in the bad, like you said, there can be, I wouldn't say there can be good, but there can be good that comes from it. I think sometimes we get so focused on the hurt and the pain, we stay there and we forget that even though that's not God's best for us, or that wasn't His intention for us, or that isn't what He wanted for us, we get stuck there and we think this is where we need to live now. But the thing I like about Ecclesiastes 3 is it says there's a time and season for everything under the heavens, right? And my favorite part of it, and I don't think many people might think this is their best part, but it's when there's a time to love and a time to hate. Because I feel like we can't always do one without the other. If we don't understand um, true love, you know, we can't forgive, really, which is where hate kind of gears towards. But also, to understand true love, we need to know what it's like not to love. And the reason that I liked that part of it is because I think in a lot of healing journeys, people focus on the love side of it. They forget that there is a time to be hurt, there is a time to cry. Like I said, lament, be angry, be upset, leave it where it needs to be. You know, feel those feelings, but just don't live there. You know, just don't pitch a tent and stay there and don't move forward from that. When we stay in that like ugliness, it just consumes us. But when there is hope and there's love and there's light at the end of the tunnel, then we know we're moving towards something better, right? But I think sometimes people feel like we can't feel hurt, we can't feel upset, we can't feel broken. We need to feel those things, we need to grieve it, and then we need to move forward. I like the contrast of that in Ecclesiastes. I like the contrast of it's not pretty scripture, really. We use a lot of the pretty parts of it, but it's actually quite a challenging scripture because it tells us that there's everything, but then it also tells us that we need to move forward from that. We can't just stay there. And so that would be the one thing about the book that I loved when God spoke to me about it. It was that contrast of like a deep hurt and a deep pain, but then also a deep love and a deep healing. And I wanted that to be represented through the book.
Wow, I think you did a good job.
Thank you so much.
What advice would you give to someone or to me supporting a loved one who is trying to heal from abuse?
The thing I would say, the number one thing I would say is never try and put yourself in a, let me rephrase this because I think that will go collision. I would say don't try to put yourself in their position in terms of, I know exactly how you feel. Yes, I've been through this. Yes, I know what that's like. If you've been through something similar or you can relate to what they're saying, I would say something like, I'm sorry, like genuine empathy. I'm sorry that you went through that. And sometimes you can just listen and not share your story. And sometimes you can listen and be, I've been through something similar. I might not know what you went through exactly, but this is what helped me if something helped you. Or if you've had no experience in that, it's always good to just listen and then ask, how can I help you? What would be beneficial for you for me to do right now? What would you like me to do for you? And how would you like me to do that? I think the worst thing is when we try to help and we don't have the tools, and then we don't want to admit we don't have the tools, so we try and make it up as we go instead of going, I don't know, but what do you need right now? What would you like? Do you want to, do you want me to sit with you? Like, I remember there was a time I had a friend in Sydney when I lived there, and I was going through part of my healing journey there. And I just remember saying to her when I started my journey, I was like, I might need some help. And then she's like, okay. And then the one day I came home, I had no words because we we're housemates, and she was like, okay, what would you like? Would you like me to just sit with you while you cry? What would you like? And all I wanted was for her to sit with me while I cried, and that was okay, you know? And I think that's the best thing we can do with people sometimes is just sit with them while they grieve or while they're working through things. Sometimes we can make them a meal. Sometimes we can, be like, yeah, that person did a terrible thing. That's awful, you know? Or sometimes we can just listen. So I definitely think ask if you don't know.
Do you know why we struggle with this? We are action people. So it's strange not to be doing something. So we jump in, we try to save a drowning man, and we may end up getting drowned as well. So it's
Yeah.
it's going to be tough for me to just sit down to listen and just love and keep quiet.
It's the hardest thing because we want to fix, right? But sometimes it's what the other person needs the most. And sometimes I also have to practice that. I have to actively practice. I catch myself in the middle of like, oh, you didn't actually ask for my advice here. You just wanted me to be your friend and listen. You didn't want me to tell you what I think, you know? So yeah, we have to practice it.
True. I'm so happy we had this conversation because I learned a lot. I need to just sit down and mourn with those that are mourning
Yeah.
and yeah, meet them where they are at and not try to fix things to get things done. Wow. I'm looking at the comments. Do you have any questions for Shani before we let her go? Her time is precious. As I wait for questions,
Okay.
I would like to remind everybody that this book has an e-copy and you can read it on your phone, you can read it on your tablet, on your iPad, on your laptop, and you can have a hard copy. My daughter will say the old school way.
Love it.
My daughter will say the old school way. Mommy, why don't you flip through your device? I say, please let me be. I prefer my pen and paper where I make notes.
I do the
If you
same.
fall into the if you fall into the category of old schoolers like me, order the hard copies. The links I left them in the comments. They are in the description of this video. But if you're one of the Gen Zs that everything has to be digital, I feel you. We have a Kindle copy as well on Amazon. Makes life easy, unencumbered. So I agree with you people also. No, but people make me laugh. They make me feel old, but it's cool. Thank you so much, every one of you that joined us for this conversation. It has been an experience for me, not just reading, studying this book. It has been an experience, a soul searching adventure. I found out that we as humans are broken. We need healing in different areas of our lives, in our thought processes, on our bodies, in our brains, everywhere. Like I said before, we may have been abused emotionally, psychologically, verbally. Maybe that's one that people don't recognize as an abuse. There's so much verbal abuse going on. Some people have been hurt in different ways, but
Yeah.
regardless of the form of hurt, there is hope and there is healing in God. The first step is to realize that you need help, that you need healing. There are certain things you do that you know are not really, really, really cool or normal. When you decide that your children won't step out of the house, then there's something wrong. When you decide you don't meet certain kinds of people, there's another thing wrong. These are things we don't see easily, but they are there hindering us from being the best versions of ourselves. And when we read this book, the Holy Spirit will convict you of areas in your life that will need His touch. Shani is a counselor and she takes it to the next beautiful level of helping you untangle yourself, just like a fish caught in a net. The whole net has to be cut for the fish to be released and set free. And that's what Christ came to do for us, to give us freedom. Freedom from hurts, freedom from the baggage, the poison that we drank thinking another person should die from it, freedom from so many things that we have been struggling with. And I'm glad you joined us for this conversation. Please go through this video once again. And if you're joining us on replay, go through it. If you're here and you've not subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? We have lovely people like Shani coming to talk to us, coming to share with us. And you let me know what topics you would like me to share with you in the next video. And if you're watching on Facebook, follow me for more. Shani, I would like you to close this session, this meeting, this beautiful conversation that you had going with us here.
In prayer.
Words of the last words. What do you call it? What are you leaving us with?
I would say the thing I'm leaving you with is that my prayer and hope for you guys is that whoever's watched this, whoever is interactive with this, would find healing, would find hope, would find if you're on the cusp of like making a decision to seek help or stepping out of a bad situation or starting a journey of healing, that whatever was spoken about today will actually encourage you and bless you and just give you, I don't want to say wisdom, but just words of encouragement to start that journey and to do the things that are actually going to bring you closer, not just to God, but also to healing and wholeness through Him. Actually, yeah, that's what I would leave you guys with today.
Thank you so much. Remember, there's healing the scientific way and there's healing the God way. And what we are talking about here is healing God's own way. And who wouldn't want that? You may close us in prayer.
Thank you. Father God, I just thank you. I thank you that you're holy and sovereign. I thank you that you are the creator of everything, Lord. And I thank you that because of that, you're with us. You go before us, Lord. And I just thank you that everybody that had the ears to hear today, Lord, that they would just um, do a deep dive into their own self and see where there is that they need healing, Lord, and that you would just help them and reveal to them what it is and which area they need healing in, Lord, and that you would give them the courage to start their journey. I just pray that you bless them, that you would just go before them, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much for being with us as we
Thank you for
leave.
having me.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
those that are watching, those that stayed till the end. Thank you very much. Remember, this book is not just for anyone going through stuff, it's for someone also journeying with someone going through stuff. In fact, it's for everybody. Take it from me. Go grab your own from any of those links in the description or in the comments. They are available for you. And Shani too is available for you when you ask me for her number. And that's when you've taken the first step to need and seek her help. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for having me.